I'm doing the session, and we're about 15 minutes in, and I feel something with my hands. Now, there's only her body there, and my hands are like 3 inches above her body. And the rule is you don't touch people when you're doing Reiki. I touched something. So I opened my eyes, and this woman morphed into a dolphin on the table.
Before we dive in, it's important to remember that the information we provide is for informational purposes only. Every situation is unique, and decisions regarding your health or legal matters should be made after consulting with your own doctor or lawyer. Our aim is to inform and empower, but personal circumstances require personalized advice. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Justice in Scrubs. I'm attorney Richard Hastings, and today I am not joined by my co-host, Dr. Jeffrey Michaelis, who's off on a trip. We have a very special guest in Kim Scala, who is a hypnotist and energy conduit who I've known for a number of years. Kim, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Richard. My pleasure to be here.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. So why don't you start off by telling us about your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Okay. I'll try to make this faster than it took. My journey was an accelerated awakening, pretty much. I was 44 years old, and I woke up different, totally different. And it happened over a series of weeks. But I knew I was different. I knew something had shifted. And I had no idea what was happening, but I would literally walk down the street and see people's auras. I would be able to know what they were thinking. I have 3 children and a husband, and my husband, who's still my husband today, was very he tolerated a lot. He just kept saying, you still got to do the dishes, and you still got to you got to get the kids on the bus. Like, you still got to be a mom. Like, I know these crazy things are happening, and that's all fine. I'm okay with that. But you still got to be there for the day today. So, like, chop wood, carry water. That was pretty much. And he kept me on track. But what was happening was so out of the norm, what I was experiencing, that I thought maybe I had died. I actually felt like maybe did I die and now I'm back? I guess a good way to think of it would be like the Matrix. Like, all of a sudden I just woke up and I saw everybody's bodies as an energy system. Now, you have muscles, tissues, bones, we have all that, but we have an energy system, and I was tuned in to the energy system.
So I just want to stop you for 1 second and say,
Yes.
for everyone out there that thinks this sounds like lunatic fringe, and I would not disagree with a lot of people.
Correct.
Except that I have 3 children, my daughter Alexandra, my daughter Katie, and my son Zachary. You have met my daughter Katie. Katie is very gifted in a number of things that you're talking about.
Yes.
I have been on this journey with Katie, and I have seen way too many things to say, this is lunatic fringe stuff, this is crazy talk, this is any of that stuff, because I've seen it. And it's amazed me. And I'm enthralled by it. And I'm on my journey as well. And I have also had what you refer to as an awakening.
Okay.
So maybe if you could just explain what an awakening is.
Okay. For me, it's pretty much self-actualization. Like, I realized that I'm creating my reality. Before this had happened, I was in survival mode. And, like, we were trying to pay the bills, raising a family in Ridgefield, which is, you got to work hard to do that. And we had our fish market at the time. My husband and I, we owned a fish market. So I was able to do my own hours and things. So I was feeling like, I guess, like someone would feel when they come to me now. I was kind of feeling like we're going in the hamster wheel and we're still going around and nothing's really happening. And I felt like my soul wanted more.
And I think when we're in that situation, at least for me as well, and many people that I know, what you're describing is that our lives are very reactive.
Yes.
We react to things that come at us.
We get triggered.
Exactly. And when we go through this awakening, we become proactive.
Exactly.
And that instead of having our lives ruled by what comes into our life, we're able to better manage how we react to things by being proactive and by inviting things into our life and by repelling certain things from our lives.
Keep what works and get rid of the rest. It's pretty much like you stated it perfectly, because it really is about realizing that you are the director. Mm-hmm. This is like, I have my movie, you have yours. You see your reality through your eyes, I see it through my lens. And the coolest thing is, and that's why I got into like really studying the subconscious mind, was there was so much power, and there's so much that we do that are habit loops. 95% of what we're doing is a habit. It's a loop.
And it's funny because I describe that as the movie that plays in your head. And we all have movies. So as soon as something happens that triggers us, we play the movie. And it might be a movie that we filmed years ago before we had the necessary tools that we have today to better direct that movie and to better refilm that movie. So the movie that we had 20 or 30 years ago does not have to be the movie that we're seeing today.
Exactly. That's you nailed it, because that's basically what I do with clients. We go and we change. You see, when we think of our life, we think of it as, like you said, a movie. But when it becomes a movie, think of it more like a picture on top, like moments, picture on top of picture. So the movie is the story we tell ourselves.
Right.
And when people come to me, I don't care about the story they're telling themselves. I'm not like a traditional therapist. I don't need to know like how bad it was. I want to know what you want. And it's just like editing. You take out the pictures that don't work. We go back, we take out some pictures that didn't serve you, put in the right ones. If you as a child were abused and had a parent that didn't treat you well, and you grow up, that's something you carry with you until you change it. And the only way you could change it is to go in and change the movie.
So I saw Tony Robbins. I've been to a number of his programs. I did the fire walk with him back in the 1990s.
Good for you.
and what I love about what he teaches, and it's such a quick saying, but it is so very true, and that is the past does not equal the future.
Right.
And so many of us carry, call it baggage.
Right.
Whether you're talking about horrific incidents that happened to us as kids. I mean, if you were sexually abused or if you were physically abused
Traumas.
or you had some type of a trauma, you carry that with you many times and you let that trauma define you.
Exactly.
But as Tony says, the past does not equal the future. And I think you brilliantly said it. When my clients come in, I don't need to know what affected them in the past because we're going to film a new movie right now.
Yeah, we're starting fresh. Like when they come to me, they're ready to make a change. And that's why I read to them Portia Nelson, autobiography in 5 short chapters. It's a wonderful
Let's return to, and I know your husband, John, very patient, very caring, very understanding.
Very
and I
patient.
could imagine that you come up and you start saying all of these things, like I'm going through an awakening, I'm seeing auras. And I would think for somebody who's not too understanding or not too patient or not too compassionate, it's like, we're going to have to get you to see somebody.
Well, there was some of that, but I was also 44 years old, and I went through menopause in a month. I was postmenopausal.
Now, if you could teach women how to do that, that would be your $1 million idea.
Well, exactly, because the other thing was I was between a size 10 and a 12, and I went down to a size 4. And
in a month?
No, in about 3 to 6 months. Like, it happened so fast. And
that's another great idea that you could use to monetize very quickly.
That was when I was energy. I became pure energy. I don't know.
Tell me what that means
I don't know
to you.
how to explain it.
How does that feel?
It's like getting like a lightning bolt. It was that much of a jolt had changed. My metabolism was optimal. Looking back, and I have like another crazy experience that happened at the time that I was scared. I didn't know what was going on. So you're looking for some validation, like that you're not crazy, because you have to start questioning your own sanity when this happens. And I didn't know anything about what at the time was New Age. I was busy raising my kids and living my life. I knew nothing about the soul's journey and everything I've learned since, like everything Deepak and Tony Robbins. I didn't know anything about that. And it was really before computers were really kicking in. So, we had the cell phones were very new. I was burning out cell phones. When I say, what does it feel like with energy? I would go and get a new cell phone because when I was talking to people on my cell phone, after 10 minutes, the cell phone I'd start to get something going up my arm, and I literally would have to like throw my phone. It would get so hot. If you remember, the first cell phones leaked a lot. Mm-hmm. Like they still talk about in the beginning of cell phones. But the guy up at the cell phone mobile place, he was like, "What are you doing to these cell phones?" I said, I guess I know I have to get off the phone when it starts. So, because it's moving up my arm. But I talked to a shaman. That was the other thing. My journey brought the people that I needed stepped in at the right times. The universe was orchestrated the most extraordinary passage of my journey. I'm still on it. Like, we'll always be on it. If somebody tells you that they've got everything figured out, run. Because nobody has this figured out. Even Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, they don't. None of us do. We just know that there's more than our five senses.
And the interesting thing for me is a lot of people say the universe brings what you need into your life when you need it. And I think the way other people explain it, but they don't look at it this way, is that God provides that. So if you're someone who believes in God, mm-hmm. I think you substitute the word God for the universe.
Right.
And that makes this a little bit easier to understand.
Well, that was also a struggle in my journey. I didn't want to get put into a box that then people could dismiss me because like a Jehovah Witness. Oh, you're one of them. I never wanted to be in any box. Don't put me in a box because I'm not. I'm a unique individual. So my son said to me, "Mom, how come this isn't a God thing?" He goes, "You're a religious person." And I said, "I'm afraid to say God." And my son said, "You can't." And I learned from my son at 7. He was 17. He goes, "Ma, it's a God thing." He goes, "It has to be. It's happening to you." And I was like, he's right.
And when you think about it, if you're a believer, yes. What is the universe but God?
Exactly.
So I think
it's creator.
Exactly. So when you think about this is a gift that was given to you by God. And this isn't you that's doing these things. You're actually a conduit, perhaps for the Holy Spirit, right. If you want to get really religious. But you have certain gifts that have really nothing to do with you.
Right. You're just the vessel.
So I saw an interesting program. I went with my daughter, Katie, who I mentioned earlier, mm-hmm. and we went to Omega. Mm-hmm. And we went to a seminar called How to Develop Your Intuitive Powers.
Cool.
And the woman that gave the seminar was a medium from Cape Cod. Her name was Lynn. Mm-hmm. And she started the seminar off by saying, "Who here can play the piano?" And several people raised their hand. And then she said, "Do you realize that everyone in this room can play the piano?"
Yes.
Some are better than others because either you have a natural ability for musical mm-hmm. instruments or you've taken lessons. But regardless of where you are in your musical journey, you could all sit at the piano right now and play the piano. She said the same is true of your intuitive powers. She said, how many of the women say, "I feel it in my heart"?
Right.
And then how many guys say, "I feel it in my gut"? That's an intuitive mm-hmm. reaction, an intuitive power. And she said you can develop those intuitive powers. And for me, which I've been able to develop much deeper, it has to do with energy. And how many times can we go into a room where nothing is being said and you can pick up on the energy?
Get a feel for the room.
There's something happy going on. There's something sad going on. People have just fought. People are just celebrating. Whatever it may be, you can pick up on energy without people saying a word.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what was happening for me. As a child, I could see energy in the room, like in a black room. I don't know what do you see when your eyes are closed, what do you see?
It's not that I see something, it's that I feel something.
No, but do you see anything?
Sometimes I see colors, sometimes I see visions, like people's faces, sometimes I see nothing.
Okay. I see little color bubbles as if different colors. And it's interesting because when I'm feeling like something is coming to me, they're like pin dots. It's different. I can call in like my mother who has passed, and I can feel a swirl. I can physically see a swirl coming into the darkness. And that energy, that's my mom. I know it. I could sense it. I feel it. And as a kid, I remember laying in bed, and my father came in the room, and I go, I'm seeing all these, like when my eyes closed, Dad, I could see all these like dots and colors. I'm seeing something. And I go, I don't know what it is. And my father goes, oh, that's from the cars going up and down the street. He goes, you're seeing from the cars. And I go, energy? I even said energy as a child. Is it energy? And I always question things. Like I've always, for me, it was about, if I could do this, let me try this. So when I had my awakening, I was like a kid in the candy store. I wanted to learn everything. And it wasn't random. It was like I would see that there was a psychic fair up in New Haven. And I was like, I'm going to hop in my car on Sunday and go to a psychic fair. My husband's like, what? What are you doing? I said, there's a psychic fair. I want to go check it out. Why? You know, we have other things to do. We have 3 kids. I said, I got to go. I have to go to this. And I constantly got that. I have to do something, not knowing what I was doing. And at that psychic fair, there was a thing about Reiki. And there was a Reiki master and a woman sitting in the chair. And they were working on a woman in a chair. So the night before, my husband has pains in his knees, really bad. So I said, I think I could do something. There's energy in my hands. I can heal. And he's like, yeah, okay, heal my knees. You know, you got all this energy. So I worked on his knees. And the next morning, he got up, and he was walking fine. I got out of bed, and my knees were killing me. I had no idea that I had taken his knee pain and transferred it into me. I didn't understand healing, and I didn't understand any of this.
And for the disbelievers that would say this is a coincidence or this is kind of, a subconscious thing where you think it's healing you and it's really not. I mean, our bodies are energy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we have tremendous amounts of energy that we emit, that we take in, and that when you're able to, and I've taken Reiki 1 and 2,
right.
And I just know about and I've experienced the movement of energy.
It's palpable. You can feel it.
But when you have these gifts, we'll call them, and people don't understand them,
right.
They want to tamp them down. They want to indicate that, these are capricious thoughts of yours that aren't going to help you in life, and you're not learning your math, but you're studying things that don't benefit you or won't benefit you. And we kind of get these taps, these touches, these urges, these insistence, like you should do this or you should try that. And I've seen those things and I've experienced those things. And just to show you how I'm on board with all of this, after my mother passed, I'm standing at the cemetery in front of her headstone. And all of a sudden, I just start talking like I'm talking right now. And I realize that I'm not thinking about the things that I'm saying. And what I'm saying are things like, your father's going through a very difficult time right now. Be much more patient with him and I want you to tell your brother X, and I won't say which brother it is right
channeling
now,
your mom.
that you should tell him to do this, this, and this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
So I get back to my car, and I call my brother, and I said to my brother, this is my current reality. I was just at the cemetery visiting Mom, and Mom started to speak through me and told me to tell you this. Now, you would think that you would be like, oh my God, thank you for sharing that with me, whether you think I'm crazy or whether you think there's some validity to it. And this brother said to me, well, why is she talking to you? How come she's not talking to me?
Yeah,
why wouldn't she tell me this? And I said, I don't understand any of this.
Right.
I'm just sharing with you what my reality is right now.
Yes, and a lot of people will say, "Well, what makes you so special?" Like, I play golf, and I wanted to help a woman with take pain out of her knee so she could play golf. She goes, "What do you think? You're Jesus Christ?" And I was like, if she had said that to me when I first had my awakening, I wouldn't have told anybody. Like, that would have kept it quiet even longer. There are a lot of people walking around experiencing, now more than ever, some of these what we used to say paranormal experiences, but it's becoming more mainstream. People are experiencing some of the things that we have.
So I saw in Richfield, Connecticut, there was a Roman Catholic priest by the name of Roy Henderson, who was a healer.
Yes.
So Roy would do these amazing things with people. And I went to a service that he had performed. I was slain in the spirit. I was crying. I was blown away by what he was able to do. Mm-hmm. My mother dies, and then that week, I get a call from a client of mine who said, I was just thinking of you. I wonder if you might be able to help a friend of mine out, Father Roy, and he wants to do X, Y, and Z.
Wow.
So I thought to myself, wow, Mom, it doesn't take you long to start getting things in order and making things work. So I contacted Father Roy. We became friends, and I've been to many services where I have seen what I would describe as miracles.
Yeah.
Things that, and he will be the first to tell you, it has nothing to do with me.
Right.
I am a conduit for the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
And I think for people to understand that it isn't you. Mm-hmm. You're just, for whatever reason, maybe you've opened yourself up, that you have become a conduit for the transference of energy.
Yes. And I would say one of the most amazing auras I ever saw was at the St. Mary's Church in Ridgefield. There was a priest. I don't even know. He's like, I'm congregational. I was there for
It was probably Father Roy.
And there was a gentleman, and the purple above him, like that color, that royal purple, was so powerful. I've seen a lot of auras, but I never saw when I saw, and it could have been him. And
I'll tell you a great aura story. So we went to Omega. Mm-hmm. I was with my daughter, Katie. We were at this, how to develop your intuitive power seminar. And this woman there said, I'm a school teacher, but I want to start writing because I want to help people with this particular challenge. So at the break, my daughter went over to the woman and she said, I wouldn't share this with you except for where we are and what we're talking about. But as you were telling that story, I saw a brilliant green aura around you. Mm-hmm. And the woman said, oh my God, what does that mean? And my daughter said, to me, it means a fresh start, a new beginning. This is something that you should pursue.
Right, that you're talking a truth for you.
Exactly. Yeah. So as we're standing there, this woman next to us says, excuse me, I didn't mean to sound like I'm eavesdropping, but did you see anything with me? And my daughter laughed and she said, my mother asks me this all the time. Right. Do I see something? And the answer is, I only see it when I see it.
Right.
And generally, you don't just go up to somebody and say, oh my God, you have this brilliant purple aura around you. But if the circumstances are right and the environment is where it's safe to share that, then you share that that type of information.
Well, I will tell you, in the beginning, I would get things in threes. Like, I was doing Reiki, and I felt like I'm going to be a healer. That's my calling. I had no idea, but I knew that there was energy in my hands and that I could do like hands-on healing. Then I learned about Reiki when I went to that psychic fair. But the gentleman at that psychic fair was working on a woman, and I had my legs. Remember, I had told you that I took in my husband's pain in my knees. Well, that day was the day I was going to that psychic fair. I'm sitting there, and I'm reading about Reiki, and I'm going, my knees. So I wanted to talk to this Reiki master. And he said, let me just finish. He goes, and he said to the woman that him and an intuitive were working together. So she was reading the mind and he was working with the body. And they were working on this lady. He goes, just sit over here. I'm going to take care of you in a minute. And when I sat there, as he was clearing this woman's energy, his hands went, and as he went by, my knees, the pain went out of my knees completely. They were done. I was fine. So then he said, okay, I'm done. Come over here and sit in the chair. And I said, I don't have to. He goes, what do you mean you don't have to? I said, when you cleared her, I go, my knees cleared at the same time. And he turned around to the intuitive. He goes, she knows energy. Like, and the woman's like, oh, yeah, she does. And then he goes, well, sit in the chair. Let me work with you a little bit. And I sat in the chair, and then they did some energy, and I said, you're done. And he said, he looked at the intuitive. She goes, we're done. He said, the problem is people pay like $10, so we don't want to be done in like 2 minutes. And he goes, but you caught me. Yeah, we are done. And he said, you really understand energy. He said, but you're really going to have to get trained in Reiki. And so I was sending long-distance Reiki before I even knew what Reiki was. So that's why I've done reconnective healing, quantum touch. It's all energy. They're just different
Let's
names.
jump into, I'm fascinated by the hypnosis practice that you have. Okay. So why don't you tell us what people come to you for hypnosis, what you can do for them with hypnosis, and why hypnosis works.
Okay. The reason when I understood the power that's in the subconscious mind, I knew that I could energetically like move things in the body or out of the body, but the brain really had me fascinated, the subconscious mind, when I realized, oh, that's running the program. And basically, from 0 to 7, we were in a theta brain state, and everything we took in as children became how we roll in the world. It became our defense, our survival. So it was like stove is hot, this and that. And you go through your life really with a program that we didn't upgrade. So when
like the movies we were talking about,
yeah.
That's when you made your movie. Yeah. That you carried with you for the rest of your life.
That's exactly the movie. So it's like with our cell phones, we've upgraded our cell phones. How many, iPro 16? So why don't we upgrade our brain? So I started really getting into Joe Dispenza. And when you were saying earlier about the person from the past. Well, every day you wake up, the Richard from yesterday is there. But Joe Dispenza says when you wake up, you have a clean slate. You don't have to carry any.
You have a new canvas.
Yeah, it's a new canvas. And that really excites me. Like, you have to, look at, Madonna did it. She reinvented herself. Michael Jordan, amazing. Like, he went to baseball for a while, and then he went back and then when he came back, sometimes you have to step back. But you don't have to stay back, and you don't have to, when people are doing something, they're in a process, they feel like, oh, this is a setback. Well, no, just think of it as a pause. It's a bend. It's not the end. And understand that you're still moving forward. The universe is moving. Everything's expanding. If you're not expanding, you're decaying, you're dying. Who wants that? So for me, I want to be the highest vibration I could be. And as my vibration gets higher, people are moved towards me. They want more of whatever she's got.
We wanted to take a quick break to remind you about our sponsor, findagreatattorney.com. Dealing with the aftermath of an accident or injury can be overwhelming. And the last thing you want to worry about is finding the right lawyer. Findagreatattorney.com simplifies the process by connecting you with one of the top attorneys in your area who specializes in your specific type of case. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, suffered a slip and fall, or experienced medical malpractice, findagreatattorney.com has a network of experienced lawyers ready to help. And remember, their service is completely free, so you can focus on your recovery without worrying about the cost of legal representation. If you or someone you know needs legal assistance, don't hesitate to visit Find agreatattorney.com and let them match you with one of the best lawyers in your area for your needs. I'll tell you a great story. So years ago, the Dalai Lama was coming to Danbury.
Yes.
And I got tickets through a lottery. I got tickets for Friday and Thursday. And I gave my Thursday tickets away. And my son Zachary and I went to the Friday show.
Yeah.
And my ex-mother-in-law worked at the Ethan Allen, which was very close to the venue where he was. I didn't want to drive to the venue because with all the security and everything. So we go to the Ethan Allen Hotel. We pull into the back of the hotel. There are Washington, D.C. SUVs, license plate cars. There's a state trooper car. There are all kinds of vehicles back there. And I said to my son, the Dalai Lama has to be here.
Right.
So we go in. They're Secret Service agents with the earpieces. So I go over to one of them and said, when is he coming down? They completely ignore me.
Yeah.
He goes, so my son goes to look for his grandmother. And they said, oh, she's upstairs. She'll be down in a minute. So she comes downstairs. My ex-mother-in-law is from Germany, doesn't know who the Dalai Lama is. She comes downstairs. She has a shawl on. And she says, oh, I was just up in the Dalai Lama's room feeding him breakfast. We're like, you were in the Dalai Lama's room?
Yeah.
And she doesn't know the Dalai Lama. And she says the cutest thing. She said, he's a very nice man. We're like, you met the Dalai Lama? She said, oh, yes, he gave me the shawl.
Oh, wow.
So we're standing downstairs. And finally, the Secret Service agent comes over and says, you can take his picture, but do not approach him. So all of a sudden, there's this big commotion. There are monks that walk through. There are Secret Service agents. There are police. And all of a sudden, the Dalai Lama comes walking around the corner of the lobby. And we meditate with Buddhist monks. So we put our hands together and we bow. He stops. He turns. He walks over to us. We're surrounded by security. He reaches out his hand. He takes my hand in his, and then he starts rubbing it. Now, you want to talk about surreal. You're standing there holding the Dalai Lama's hand as you're looking into his eyes. And you want to talk about energy. You're like, oh, my God, this is somebody incredibly powerful. Then he walks to my son and does the same thing.
Wow. You were blessed.
So
Truly blessed.
I call my cousin Maureen, who you know, who's very gifted as well. And I said, Zachary and I just met the Dalai Lama. And she said, of course you did.
Right.
And it's the things that you can invite into your life. But the story I was going to tell is, at the lecture that he was giving that day, he said, at the end of the day, when I put my head down on the pillow, I think about all of the things I did during the course of the day. And I congratulate myself on the things that I did very well. And the things that I could have done better or differently, I change for the next day. And that's the concept that you're talking about of you have a brand new canvas.
Right.
So every day, from all the mistakes that we've made, we now have the opportunity to right those mistakes and be a better version of ourselves.
It's coming out of survival into thrive. When you're thriving, you're not looking back. You're not in fear. You're in love, pure love. When you're thriving, you're feeling good.
And the people that have the most amazing stories, in my opinion, are the ones that went through horrific events. Whether they've had a near-death experience or they've had some incredibly traumatic experience, or whether they've had a drug or alcohol challenge, or whether they've gone through something that you're just like, oh my God.
Right.
And they come out on the other side and now they talk about resilience and gratitude and faith and hope. And all of the things that you're able to bring into somebody's life. You know, when we think about what we do for a job or what we do for a career, what you do is so incredibly fulfilling. I mean, you literally can change somebody's life who is in such a deep, dark place. And you were telling me that before you go through the process with a new client, you read them something. And I would invite you to read that because it is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah, actually, this is when they first come into like my office, and I congratulate them for taking the steps.
A huge step.
And the courage that it took to want to make a change. I do a telephone intake first. So I ask all my questions. I get a pretty good feel for them. But when they come in the room, I have them, and I'll ask, if they're not driving, your audience, even if they could, as they're listening to this, just put their right hand on their chest and like their left hand over it, close their eyes, and really soak in these words that I'm going to read. This is autobiography in 5 short chapters. It's by Porta Nelson. And chapter 1, I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I still don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's habit. It's my fault. I know where I am, and I get out immediately. Chapter 4, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5, I walk down a different street.
That is brilliant. And that is the life of everyone
Yes.
that engages in very bad conduct that we know is bad. It's that we repeat it over and over again.
It's
and to
all
say
of our
that
habit loops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me, how do you break a habit loop? And give me an example of like 3 of the reasons that people would come to see you.
Okay. The first thing is to be aware that it is a habit loop. Sometimes people, like, they'll come to me and, okay, here's a really good one. If say I work with realtors, okay? Realtor comes to me and they're selling houses, and I said, well, what's your price range? And they're like, oh, $750,000. I said, how come you're not selling $1 million houses? And they have a ceiling.
Limiting beliefs.
Yeah, a limiting belief that they only can work well with these people.
So one of the people that you work with, which is everyone, I think, are people that have limiting beliefs.
We all have limiting beliefs.
Everyone.
And so it's kind of the cage we put around ourselves from that 0 to 7 mindset that created how you roll in the world. It's like, Richard will do this, but he won't do that. Like the lines you won't cross.
So there's a great story I heard, and it was from somebody like Tony Robbins, where they said that when you go to the circus and you would see elephants there, they have that the chain around their leg, and it's banged into the ground with the pole. Mm-hmm. And you know the elephant can rip it out of the ground. You're thinking, why don't the elephants rip them out of the ground? And it's because when they're baby elephants and they do this, they try to tug and tug and tug, and they can't pull the stake out.
A learned response.
A learned response. Their limiting belief. They can't do this. So when they get bigger and they can rip it out very easily, their movie is when they go to tug on it, it won't be able to leave the ground.
That's as far as it goes. And same thing with golfers. They believe, I shoot in the 90s, low 90s. How come not 80s? It's like weight. Same thing with weight. We hit a certain plateau.
Smoking, any kind of bad habits. Yeah. How much money you make. Like somebody says, I make X number of dollars. Well, why don't you make 3X?
Well, that's been my thing for
I'm not
a long
entitled
time.
to. I'm not really
Feeling
capable
worthy.
of. I'm not worthy is such a great catch-all for everybody.
Well, that's just it. Most of everything, the root of everything is not feeling worthy, not feeling lovable.
How do you switch that? How do you change that?
I shower
Can you do
them.
that to me right now?
I put them in hypnosis, into a trance state, and I shower them with love, like so much love. Like I do groups at the Salt Cave in Darien. I have these like regulars that come, and when I'm there, I make that more like a spa experience. So we're not doing the deep work, but you do a little tapping to kind of clear out anything that
Which
you
is
want
incredible
out.
For people that know about it, where you tap on your face and how it can rewire your brain.
Oh, definitely. You could take out limiting beliefs just by tapping. You asked, like, that's one technique. Forgiveness is huge. So I have Ho'oponopono, which was Joe Vitale. He was very big on this ritual. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. And you say it 108 times. It's a mantra. And something happens. And if you have like a person you're struggling a relationship with, it's just not working. Get really quiet. Put your hands on your chest. Think of that other person like the only thing in your mind at the time, because that's just it. We all have like ADD. We can't focus on one thing. Focus is huge. So focus on that one person and say, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive. Thank you. You don't even have to say forgive me.
So when my kids were young, very, very young, they were in grade school, we would do this thing every single day that they went to school. Before they left the house, we would scream at the top of our lungs.
Right.
3 times. I feel happy. I feel healthy. I feel terrific.
Right.
I dare anyone to scream that 3 times and then not have this energy level like,
Right.
let's go get them.
That's a Tony Robbins right there.
And then I'll tell you the other thing. If you haven't seen it, you should Google it. It's called, do you know what the Haka is?
Haka.
Oh my God. So the Haka is this ritualistic dance that every school kid in New Zealand is taught.
Wow.
And evidently because the New Zealand armies, like the Aboriginal, they were so small that they would usually be defeated in war. They have this ritualistic dance that they do.
Very empowering.
That after you do it, you are so incredibly amped up and ready to go. So what happens now is that the sports teams, the All Blacks, for example, which is their rugby team, and the basketball team, when they played in the Olympics, they do this Haka, and I think it's Haka.
Okay, I'll look
Watch
it up.
the video. It is crazy, and
Right.
it's about raising your
Vibration.
Your vibration.
Yeah.
And once you do that, or you scream, "I feel happy, I feel healthy, I'm terrific," you can't just walk out of the house and be like, You're like amped up.
Well, that's how I feel when I'm in front of a group. I like to do groups. For me, when I was trained with hypnosis, there was a doctor that was trained with me at the same time, and it really helped with our scripts for weight loss because he was able to address the adrenals, some of the terminology and things that I wouldn't have put in the script. But having him there really helped that. But one of the things he said to me at the time was, you have to be very careful when you're doing hypnosis. You can't do energy and hypnosis together. And he said, you'll get sued. Talk to a lawyer, right? You'll get sued. And I got to say, for 6 years, I wasn't putting energy and hypnosis together. But in groups, I don't feel like I could get sued. I'm not.
And I don't know that that's a big concern.
And I don't think it is what it was anymore.
Let me bring you back to the hypnosis because I want to make sure that that you, in the very short period of time that we have remaining, tell me what you do. So you have these different groups that whether it's smoking or drinking, whether it's some addictive issue, whether it's you're limited in your beliefs, whether it's you want to lose weight, whether you want to shoot, you do a better job playing golf or whatever sport it is.
Right.
What do you do with them? How long does it take? What does it entail?
Okay. Someone comes to me, and one of the major things, I do work with business people that are trying to, up-level their game. Same thing with any sports or anything. But I do get people that have experienced a trauma, and it could be like a car situation where they've had an accident. They need to get past it so they could drive again.
So let's just say that the catch-all is you're going to make them a new movie for them.
We're going to change. Yeah, we're going to take something.
How do you do that?
Well, I get a feel for the person. And it's like what you were saying before, I feel it in my heart. Some people feel things, others are visuals. So I get a feel for their energy and how they see their reality. And once I click into their energy, what I do, and this is where NLP might come in or some of the, I mirror them.
NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
Another very powerful tool.
Because we want to reprogram the brain, basically. We want to change the movie. I just say, you're watching a soap opera. Why don't you put on something really great that you want to watch? You don't need to be doing the soap opera. There's something else. Too much drama. People are looking to not have drama.
Like Facebook is a big drama creator.
There's so much
Watch
of that.
the news, a big drama creator.
There's a lot of anxiety, and most people come to me for anxiety is big. That's really huge. But for the most part, somebody will come to me, and usually what they've come for is not
what
really
they get.
why they're there. And that's what they're going to tell me. And it's kind of interesting the way it works. It's like I'll do an intake.
They get what they need, not what they want.
I do an intake on them, and then I work with them. And sometimes it's just one session. Kind of depends on what it is. Fear of flying, that could be one session.
I know I sent a client to you who had a particular fear. And she said, I've been to everybody. I've tried everything, medication, doctors, psychiatrists. She went to you one time, and it was a fear of flying issue. And she said, oh, my God. She went on this flight and said, I can't believe what she did in such a short period of time. She said to me, it was like magic.
Yes, but in the session, because they're in a trance state, you could get a lot accomplished because it's not in the same time frame. The subconscious isn't in the time frame that your conscious mind is. You could pack a lot into a session.
Does it have to be in person, or can you do it?
I do online also.
So you could do like Skype or through some type of...
I do FaceTime and Zoom. I do a lot, like Zoom groups for weight loss I've been doing regularly. I have a pretty good group going right now. And everybody's losing weight and we're having fun. The best thing is what I'm finding after COVID is that people kind of withdrew. And now they're ready to come out. And they don't, like, they're kind of socially awkward. It's like all these kids with video games. I can't tell you the fear that brings to me, because your subconscious mind sees pictures and images as if they're real.
So you do hypnosis. What other modalities do you have, and what can they accomplish?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. When each person comes in, it's like I intuitively go for what I believe is going to work. And I have to say, it usually works. Sometimes I'll say, okay, this is too much to unpack in one session. Mm-hmm. I do a 4-pack. And I haven't had anybody who's had a 4-pack that needed another 4-pack. They would be done with whatever.
So generally, whatever the challenge is that they might not even realize when they come in 4 sessions.
Pretty much.
You've got the new movie in their head.
Yeah, pretty much. And the other thing is, some people come just because they want more. They just want more. Like, oh, if we could do this, what about this? And then they'll send the family, someone else in their family, like, oh, I want you to see my brother. I want you to see this or that. So it's really word of mouth that I see people. And
the fascinating thing to me is that I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are in life. I don't care what you've accomplished or what you have not accomplished. Everyone has stuff, whatever that stuff is.
Right.
And you can, through these different modalities, and especially by putting somebody in a state where you're kind of affecting their subconscious mind, that you're able to get them to that point a lot quicker. And due to your intuitive, we'll call them powers or gifts, you're able to kind of sense or feel or discern what it is they need. And people might come in because they're too embarrassed to talk about it.
Yeah.
They'll say, well, I want to stop smoking.
Yeah.
But it's not really smoking so much. It's something deeper that perhaps causes them to smoke.
Well, think of when you're smoking cigarettes, you're putting up a smoke screen, so you're keeping people away. Why are you doing that? And a lot of times people come in and I have therapists that refer their clients to me, because I had this one woman, she literally was having 20 panic attacks a day.
Oh, my God.
I was like, how are you functioning?
Right.
And she was working. She was like a legal assistant. And I was like, how are you doing it? She goes, I go to the bathroom.
Oh, my God.
I'm in the bathroom a lot. And it was hard to see. It was really difficult to even be in her energy because it was crushing.
And think about how difficult it would be for that person to get to the point where they say, I need to see someone.
Right. And it was a friend, somebody
because you're just
knew,
opening up your heart and your soul to say, I am such a mess. I need you to help me.
Right. And I've had people that have been on their end of the road.
Right.
I get a lot of that too, but I have had people that have been at the end, so they thought, and they just needed to rewrite the story they were telling themselves.
What a beautiful gift.
Some people talk themselves into being sick just to get attention.
Sure.
Just to get someone to notice them. And when you change that, you change the world. It's amazing.
So as our time is drawing to a close, I'd like you to kind of synopsize anything you want to share with our viewing audience as to, to me, what I'm hearing right now is, regardless of what challenge you're experiencing, there's great hope.
Oh, yeah.
And not only is there great hope, but there's in what you do, the real possibility that their life could be completely changed.
Oh, completely altered. And that's, okay. I get real excited when I see the shift. And the shift, I physically, I see it in the way they walk out. If I took a picture of everybody that walked in and then how they walked out, you would be like, whoa. And it's mind-blowing. And I always say, text me. Let me know how you're doing. Because Otherwise, there's so many people I've worked on, and I had no idea if I actually did anything. Because a lot of these people, and they're not going to refer me because whatever we were dealing with was very private, okay?
Of course.
That's, we're hitting some real tender areas for people. So
without having to visit that, really, because you're talking to them on a subconscious level. Because when people see
that as easy as possible.
When people see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a mental health professional, a lot of times they talk about peeling back the onion.
Yeah.
And for everyone, they're like, I don't know that I want to go that deep. I don't want to know what really is my big challenge. Whereas you can do that. Yep. You kind of, instead of peeling back the onion, you kind of just pop right into the middle of it.
Or you get the feel for what it is and you make it a color and you just let it go. There's the mind, it's amazing because it's images and pictures.
Oh my God.
So like you could sit down and write all your stresses for the day and then you could pretend that you're making the most perfect paper airplane, and you just throw it.
So, I teach goal setting, and one of the things that helps you to achieve whatever goal you want to achieve is by virtue of writing your goals down in very specific terms. And what that does is it puts all of that into your subconscious mind. Right. So if you were to write down these 10 very specific goals that you wanted to accomplish in the next 12 months and rolled up that piece of paper and put it in your sock drawer, you would accomplish 8 of those 10 goals just by virtue of the fact that it's in your subconscious mind.
Yes, because the subconscious just needs direction. That's all it needs. It's like you can learn, like she said, the piano. You can really learn anything. Your subconscious just needs direction. It's
like the engine of a motorboat. The engine will only go where the ship's captain steers it in that direction. So the subconscious mind is really the engine. So you, as the captain of your own ship, are able to tell that engine, we're going in this direction.
This is where
we're going in positive ways. We're going to accomplish these things. We're not going to engage in these bad, destructive behaviors. We're going to shoot a better round of golf. I mean, what you can do for people is limitless.
Yeah, it really is. And it's amazing what they do for themselves once they figure it out. Like when you realize, oh, that's a belief I had that's not serving me.
A limiting belief.
I'm going to get rid of that. Like I'm no longer going to think that I'm not worthy. And then you raise your prices and more people come to you.
And how many people have these knee-jerk reactions when this happens, you do this?
Right.
It's based upon the movie.
It's the program.
So why not rewrite the movie? Exactly. Rewrite the story, and then all of a sudden when this happens, you don't do that. You do something productive and positive.
Exactly. Most of the things I tell people is, it's kind of, hypnosis is not a magic pill, but it works subliminal. It's like underneath everything. So understand that you might not notice like what's changed, but the change will happen, and probably the person closest to you will notice. And a really good catch on this was my husband one Saturday said to me, I'm making coffee. Do you want coffee? And I was like, he goes, do you even drink coffee anymore? And I said, we drink decaf, so it wasn't like a big deal. I said, no. I go, actually, I haven't had coffee. I've been doing a greens pack every morning. Instead, a healthy drink, and I kind of just took out coffee, not realizing that I had replaced it with something, with my greens pack, which I still do greens pack every day. It's amazing. And my husband was like, so you don't want coffee? I go, actually, I'll have a cup. And it was so cool to be in that position of...
Like you questioning yourself.
I'm choosing to have this cup of coffee. I'm not having it out of the habit loop. I'm aware that I have a choice, and today it's Saturday. I'm going to have a cup of coffee.
And how many people do we know that say, "Oh, I haven't had a cup of coffee. I haven't had my cup of coffee yet. I'm not able to function."
Yeah, they think,
it's like that's got nothing to do with anything. It's your head saying you need coffee to function properly.
And it's also stacking. If you want to change a habit that you have, the best thing is to if you want to add something, it's not changing it. Add in something good. Stack it on something you already do. Mm-hmm. Like if you're already like brushing your teeth, you're doing that anyway. So what's another good thing you could do at the same time that you're brushing your teeth? Your affirmations. Well, you're at the mirror. You're right there. Why not say, hey, you're looking good today?
Or put them on the mirror, like with the Post-it notes. So when you're brushing your teeth.
Well, that I would say we have limiting beliefs, but the biggest one is not feeling like you're enough. Mm-hmm. Like you're just, as a child, you came in, you were enough. You were enough. but something made you always think you had to be better, you had to do more. And we get driven.
Or the imposter syndrome, because I talk to a lot of people that have a great expertise in something. And I'll say to them, you should hold yourself out as an expert in this topic. And they're like, oh, but there's so many more people that know much more about this topic area than I do. I said, well, how many people don't know as much about it?
Right.
And you probably know more than 95% of the population about something. In my mind, you're an expert.
Exactly.
But people look at the 95 and say, well, they're 5%, they're 4% that know more than I do.
I found that out with some of the energy healers that I follow and have been following for a while. When I finally get on a one-on-one conversation, they're like, I looked up your website. I looked up what you do. And because I always say to them, I see you have hypnosis. Like, you do hypnosis, but that's not part of your practice. It's like, it's always there. And they're like, yeah, I just don't have the same confidence level that you have. That's what they tell me.
Exactly.
And I'm like, they're telling me that. And these are the people I've been following. I'm like, oh my gosh. I have gone to like Carolyn Mice and had to tell her she had just done at St. John the Divine in New York City. She had just done this beautiful program. And at the end, people were going up to get her autograph and to talk to her. And she was still coming out of channeling because she was definitely a vessel for this information. And she was snappy. She was so snappy with people that a part of me I didn't even know I had, just Carolyn, and pulled her aside. And I was like, Caroline, you have to come out of trance. You're really being a bitch, and you're scaring people, and you got to be scaring yourself. She goes, oh, thank you. I need water. I go, don't see the people until you're ready. They're gonna wait for you. But so when I find myself with somebody like that, telling them that what they're doing is inappropriate or something, I'm like, who am I? And then I hear, who are you not? Like, why can't it be you?
The greatest example I've ever heard of not being enough was Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was interviewed. Now, I don't think you get a more devoted, giving, compassionate, caring person than Mother Teresa. And when she was interviewed, she said, I don't know if I'll be going to heaven after I die because I don't know that I'm worthy. And I thought to myself,
we're all in trouble.
If she's not worthy, I'm in big trouble.
We're all in trouble if she's not.
So how can people get in touch with you? How can people contact you about utilizing your services?
Okay, Focus Plus Hypnosis. I told you focus was very important. And the name of my company is Focus Plus Hypnosis. And you could find me on my website.
What's the website?
FocusPlusHypnosis.com.
Okay.
And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, Focus Plus Hypnosis. I tell everybody, you could call me, text me, 240-2040. It's really easy.
That's a good one.
It's real easy. And
203.
Yeah, 203-240-2040. And that number was a gift given to me. And I'm very approachable and I'm very relatable, and I want to be there for people. That's my role. That's why
it's funny because I can tell, and I think people that know you can tell, that this is not about the financial side of it. This is clearly about you helping other people through the gifts that you have. And I am very blessed to know you. And I thank you for coming on here and sharing this incredible information.
It's my pleasure. You could do this anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.